Alright guys, TacticalRab again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. The competitive COD community remains undefeated at bullying the pros into changing their mind on a controversial decision. Last night, the pros had decided Fortress Control was to stay. There was no other map coming into the rotation, but also last night they changed their mind after massive backlash. Expo is now in the rotation. Fortress Control is gone, but is the new map actually any better? And what does this mean for some spicy stuff between these teams? I'm sure to continue over the coming days. Very much enjoyed to your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I would greatly appreciate it. Plenty to dive into because, man, there is a lot of pieces to this puzzle we're going to have to break down today. It was absolute madness last night, to be honest, with the attached situation and then going into Fortress Control versus Expo Control, possibly versus Hydro Control, which might be another possibility. We'll see here in a second. Slasher was already getting ready to go for the Twitter fingers in the evening, talking about how on April the 1st, maybe Infinity will put red dots in and then remove them the very next day. It would be absolutely comedy. Wouldn't put it past them. These, though, are the attacking win rate in Control history. So starting from at least over the last few years in the CDL, we have Raid 45-ish%, Berlin in Vanguard 47%, Hotel this year 55%. Now, Fortress is the lowest ever, which doesn't necessarily mean worst, but in this case it probably does. It's actually a lower attacking win percentage than Gavutu was, lower than Tuscan, which was still pretty bad in Vanguard, even Garrison, right? I mean, I remember Garrison and Checkmate. We often used to watch those maps in Cold War thinking, damn, like teams can never win offenses here, but Garrison was almost a third of the time, despite how bad at times that map was. Like, teams figured it out towards the end and it actually turned out to be okay. LSC though, 37%, and these numbers around about this range are actually where you want it to be. Doesn't necessarily mean the map is good, but the way that Control works, the team that gets the most ticks or the most kills, if the ticks are tied, doesn't get to choose what they get for round 5, they simply get put on defense. So in an ideal world, the map should be marginally defensive favored, something like 55-45 I think is perfect. So if the team does get more ticks or more kills, if the ticks are tied, they get the beneficial side round 5. The issue with Hotel is that if you do better, you get more ticks or more kills, then you actually get a disadvantage round 5 because it's an offensive favored map. Now, there has been some talk about Expo also being an offensive favored map, so if it gets too offensive favored, then it's actually kind of fundamentally bad based on the way the game is structured, but still probably better than what Fortress is, to be honest. So Ben was like, okay, hopefully it's going to be gone and we can move on with our lives, and then Sasha comes back and says, get ready for this one because it's not looking good, and clearly FaZe are very much in favour of getting rid of Fortress Control. The other teams seemingly didn't agree, and as Sasha says, we are going to start the dialogue, and indeed a dialogue was shortly after started, because Crone tweets out, I'm told the majority of teams voted to keep aBeZy Fortress Control in the map pool instead of replacing it with the new Expo map. Very few teams wanted a change. Now, to be honest, for this whole situation we're going to digest here, like, the pros have to be at fault in large part, because Octane made it very clear just a couple of days ago, they have tried to scrim this map against other teams. They asked everyone they played over the last week, really, to practice this map Expo against Thieves and just see how it works. The teams largely declined, and then they say, no, we're going to want to keep Fortress anyway. So the change that's then happened over the coming hours, the teams can't be too frustrated with this because they created this situation for themselves by not giving Expo a good go properly, and now they've been bullied into changing their minds. So as I say, Octane said the other day that Thieves wanted to try Expo. I think they played it maybe against FaZe, and they thought, actually, in scrims, this plays quite well. In ranked play, it's different. When you play in ranked with a 4-stack, the game is going to play different anyway, or even like with solo players, it's always going to play different to what the pros version of the game is when they play on the map in a competitive setting at a pro tier level, when their understanding gets to a degree. Because, I mean, I think what was happening, a lot of pros would go into Expo expecting not to like it, and you can always find some good confirmation bias reasons to not like a map if you go in expecting not to. We saw Ghosty the other day, we saw Arcitys saying that for sure, it's not going to be going anywhere, Fortress from their perspective, because they hate Expo, it's not good. They played it a couple of times in ranked and decided, yeah, this map is terrible, we're not even going to bother playing it against other teams. Thieves, I'm not exactly sure if OpTic are involved in this, we'll see in a second, but Thieves are very evident that they wanted to play it, they were trying to practice it, they were asking teams to practice it, but teams straight up refused and just said, no, it's bad, we're going to play Fortress anyway, without really even giving Expo a chance. Now, Dashy also mentioned, as I believe did Ghosty, that Hydro Control, and I was going to mention this last night before the attach thing happened, is a viable alternative. They reckon this map is actually pretty good, and they would prefer this to be in instead of Fortress, and potentially instead of Expo as well. So what do you guys think about this one, right? Because maybe after stage thought we're going to get minus Expo plus Hydro, because apparently this is a viable map mode combination that for some reason the pros haven't really been playing so far this season. And again, I don't know if it's laziness, I don't know what it is, but the pros get paid to play this game, but have simply refused to practice good alternatives on a consistent and widespread basis.
Hydro control is playable. We literally tested it, Nate, at the beginning of the year. I still don't know why we won't test it. I've been trying.
If I had the choice between Ford or Expo, what are we picking? Honestly, stream, like, we played Dark today, Dark Control, and it was actually pretty good. I thought it was good at least, but I thought it played really well, and, I mean, even if it wasn't, even though I do think it's hella good, like, it's better than this at least. This shit is terrible.
So then Slasher replies to Crone's tweet and says, look, I tried to get it gone, but it wasn't going to happen. And Clay says, same. So already saying here that, okay, FaZe wanted it gone, Clayster and Vegas wanted it gone. Now, look, they are terrible at control and at Fortress control as well. So I'm not surprised that Clay and Vegas want it gone. But okay, FaZe wants it gone, Vegas wants it gone, as Clay says here. We know that Thieves wanted it gone. So that's 3 teams already that wanted it gone. And the rumor has it that it was 3-9 in favor of keeping Fortress in the game mode in terms of what the voting was over the last couple of days, and also earlier last night before they then changed their minds. So those are seemingly the 3 teams that were interested, and even as Sasha says, I've been saying pros nowadays should not be involved in the votes. This would have never happened in the good old days, right, when Sasha run the league. And look, I think Sasha's got a fair point. Nowadays, a lot of these pros are making this decision, like on keeping Fortress control, without even giving Expo the light of day to try it, based on what Octane has said. So they've only got themselves to blame now that they've been bullied into changing their mind because they really didn't know. So Zittle Surge come out and say, based on this this new revelation, that, well, yeah, Major 4 qualifier is going to be looking like this with what might be one of the greatest map sets in competitive COD history. I don't really know how you can get much worse than this. To me, Ramasa has got to be there. Miami, I actually think you should probably go for like Piccadilly. So Piccadilly Search and Destroy has to be in it, in my opinion. Like, that map, I mean, I don't want to talk about it. I think Miami was honestly a tier above these other ones. So I'd put Piccadilly Search in for Miami. Just goes to show how dominant Infinity would have been, right, with creating the map sets we have. Siege Search was bad, but I don't know if it's quite deserving of it. Maybe it is. And also some Petro Hardpoint was pretty bad. I'd maybe chuck like aBeZy Cave in here, probably, but I don't know. Intrigued your thoughts in the comments. It's one of the worst map sets you could possibly create. There is no doubt about it. And even as Noisy says, from his understanding of the professional player perspective, very few teams even scrimmed it. And he kind of quotes what they were saying. I played it in ranked and it was terrible, but that really doesn't give you a good evidence of how good the map is going to play from a competitive perspective. So yeah, they wanted to keep Fortress. All the frustration about Fortress, all the anger from the pros about Fortress control over weeks, they get a chance with a new map coming in to actually try it out in scrims and see if it's going to work better. And maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. There's talks about the map is too big. As I said the other day, it's an Infinity Ward map. It's not going to be great, but it's probably better than Fortress from what I've seen and from what most of the pros that have actually scrimmed it seem to believe. So it sounds almost unbelievable, but given the pros, it's really not, to be perfectly honest. And the Octane goes on to say, well, Sasha gets asked by Enable which 3 teams wanted it gone. Sasha's like, well, it was done anonymously, but then Octane comes out and says, yeah, we tried. So the understanding is it was probably initially FaZe, Thieves, and Vegas that wanted it gone. And, you know, Octane says, I can tell you the vote was not close. Pros bitch, then get opportunities to fix it, then back down when it comes time to do something. So, yeah, Octane calling them out here, and I can understand why. And then Trek say, well, you know, it was a fun run, guys. Expo's gone from ranked play, from Search and Destroy, and from Control. Thanks to the pros, you know, unfortunately, we're not going to be able to move forward with it. However, they changed their mind relatively soon. So Crone says here that from his sources as well, it was 9-3 in favor of keeping Fortress in. And I expected, to be honest, there had to be a 9-3 the other way in order for this to be overturned. Turns out, though, not the case, as shortly afterwards, after all the backlash that was going on Twitter, we've had this so many times before now where the pros don't really know why they've chosen a certain thing. I think this is the key reason behind it, is that they make a call, some of these teams, but they don't really have any good reasoning or backbone to, like, you know, stand on when this call is challenged. And therefore, when the community and all the other pros starting to come at them on Twitter, they're like, well, you know, maybe you make a fair point, because they really don't have a good reason why they were not trying out Expo and not giving it a go and not deciding to bring it in. And it's the same with the sniper rifle drama we've had in previous couple of seasons. I don't know what the community is now against the pros, but it's got to be a good, like, 3, 4, 5-0 over the last couple of years when the pros decide to do something that's stupid, and then the community is, what are you doing? And some pros agree with the general community opinion, and then the rest of the pros, you know, get forced into changing their mind. And I think mainly it's just laziness on the pro side not testing this, and you know, just no backbone maybe, but also because they have no good explanation or reason as to why they shouldn't change their mind. So then ProLuke comes out with this CDL map pool update effective 10 a.m. Pacific today. aBeZy gone, Expo in. So people were like, what is going on? And then shortly afterwards, there was another vote held for Expo to come in, and it was now a 6-6 tie. So 3 teams had changed their mind. I'm thinking including OpTic. I'm not exactly sure what the other ones were, but there was a tie, and that was now enough for a change. Now, first off, I think this is pretty ridiculous in a way. Like, how should a tie be making a change? I didn't think it worked like this. I thought there had to be at least a majority of, if not a significant majority. So I don't really understand how they've managed to go from, you know, a 6-6 tie to making this change happen. And even as Dominate says, tied vote for Expo and Fortress when only 3 teams tested the map. Now, first of all, that's the team's fault, right? I mean, he's saying, oh, only 3 teams tested, but like everyone had a chance to test it. It's your fault for not trying it. Because they don't really have a leg to stand on now when they're like, oh yeah, we don't want to bring Expo in, but it's like, you didn't try it, guys. So you can't really have an opinion on this subject, right? The teams that actually tested it, they're going to have a better opinion than the 9 that didn't. So, I don't know. I think the pros are going to be to blame for this to a certain extent. But I also agree that it is illogical to have a tied vote that changes the maps instead of saying the same. But fundamentally, I don't really care. Whatever. Like, the job is done now, and the Expo is in. So, thankfully, from a fan perspective, we don't see Fortress Control anymore. I know that there's definitely mixed opinions in the community as to whether this map is actually good for Control or not. I am inclined to believe that in the hands of the pros, this map will prove to be better than Fortress over time. It's got to be tough to be worse, let's be honest. But the community's managed to successfully win again, and Treyarch then come out and say, change of plans, tomorrow our Right to Play playlist update, we will be keeping Expo Control, Fortress is going to be gone, and Expo Search and Destroy is going to be gone. So I think for the, well, the sanity, let's just say, of the fan base that actually likes to play the game and play ranked play, then I'm sure people will be rather happy that Fortress is going to be gone and see Expo in. But some disagree, some think Expo is worse. But I just got to say how remarkable it is how often this happens now, where just bullying the pro players just seems to work. I mean, I think it's more than 3-0. I think we're a good like 4-0 at this point up against the pros over the last couple of years with snipers and various other things they've decided to do that they reversed after a bit of community push. And I think that's largely because the pros just didn't even try it particularly or have a good reason why it shouldn't be in, and therefore they were kind of forced into a change when most of the teams that did try it said, actually, it is definitely better, guys, and even with the tie, we're going to make it change anyway. So even as Octane says, 3-0, like, as I say, it might even be more than 3-0 right now. But the prevailing opinion wins yet again against the professional scene. It does make things pretty spicy, though, because this is a rather last-minute change, it's got to be said. I thought it was going to be happening for some days before. Now the teams that didn't practice it actually have to start, and they've got only a couple of days left until their matches on the weekends. I'm guessing for the first weekend, a lot of teams might ban Expo, just, you know, so they don't have to rely on practice that isn't necessarily particularly good. Some teams will want to go for it, and then there's also, well, the challenger side, right, the elite matches, where it's also just been put in for tomorrow. So going to be very interesting what's going to happen over the coming days, and maybe Expo down the line even gets gone again, and potentially Hydro Control comes in. If OpTic are right, then actually that map is the more viable of all the alternatives. But very much enjoyed your thoughts on all this chaos in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.